We did pick up something cool for the channel, none other than another scams. Let's talk about those, because your boy got dealt with.
I got two customer cars in here. One of them Subaru rally car. Let's keep this going somehow.
Boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. We're out hooning again. I do want to share something with you, some kind of cool, and it's not these wheels that yours truly makes. A little shameless plug, you know, so if you need something, hit us in the DMs. But we did pick up something cool for the channel. It is none other than another Z06 Corvette.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
This time we picked up a Z06. This is a 2007 Z06 Corvette, roughly with about 90,000 miles. Picked up last Friday. It's kind of a good deal.
Fire it up.
We'll try to fire it up. Yeah, let's hear this.
Spinner wheelies out here.
They're out here doing spinner wheelies and racing in our neighborhood park. Apprehend these guys. I didn't say kill them.
Spinner wheelies. This is a little bit different than the other Corvette. It's a little bit more tamed. And how tame, we don't know yet. So let's see if it starts. Well,
It's out the season.
scams. Let's talk about those, because your boy got dealt with. We already kind of knew that this happened, so we're just playing it off a little bit so to show you something cool, but it wasn't cool. Even though had a good conversation with the seller, everything seemed really promising. You know, Facebook Marketplace, be careful what you buy. But had a good conversation, met up in person. Guy said car wasn't running, rightfully so. You know, it was an inheritance, or so he said. Lying son of a sack. But in any case, so came there, checked it out, did my best as far as trying to figure this car out. Brought battery pack, tried to start it, click, 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 nothing. So it could be a few things that could have been wrong with it. Hooked up a battery pack, didn't jump the car, so maybe a starter. Obviously can't do the starter right then and there. It's a few hour job in a Z06 Corvette. So we're like, okay, I did my best as far as looking around and seeing what was wrong with the car. This, unlike the Grand Sport, comes with a 7-liter V8. Pretty sought after. They do have some vulnerabilities. Basically, they can drop a valve at almost any time, especially that higher mileage. Once they drop a valve, it hits the piston. The piston is pretty big. It's a 4.125 inch round, basically. Valve drops, piston tips, and then the rod breaks and starts smacking the block, and this thing ended up with just that. Got a hole in the block. And the piston rings, unfortunately, like our boy Brian in Fast and Furious 1.
Now me and the mad scientist got to rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you fried.
You can't just do those. You feel me? And my boy guy right here, he came back with the drinks. Boy always got.
Hey, yo, what the f?
Damn! But yeah, this is the, I mean, it's the same thing as the other one. They're ugly. They're ugly. And like just some of y'all that were talking smack on last video saying I don't know much about vets. Yeah, I still don't know, because from what I know, this is probably a water pump right here. It's a fuel pump, you know what I'm saying? This might be a gas tank. I don't know. But anyway, this is the crown jewel, the creme de la creme of the Z06 platform, which is, well, I'm lying, it was a ZR1. But the 7-liter, anyways, valve drops, the rod starts doing this and smacking the block in half. When I was competing back in Formula Drift, I had a 6-liter LS2 that did just that right at Urbandale Speedway in California.
This goes out to all our fallen homies, yo. Come on.
Hey, yo, real talk.
All right?
And there was probably about 7 quarts of oil on that track right down the main drag. So they had to clean that up quite a while. Your boy was responsible for stalling the show for a little while. Yeah, essentially, but my old block ended up splitting literally in half. The heads were holding the block together until we popped the heads off, and then the front half of the block basically went and came apart. But unfortunately, this is what happened to this, and where I thought that this was going to be at least a couple $1,000 fix and I could have a cheap C6 Corvette, ended up being needing a full engine replacement. Unfortunately, when a valve drops, usually pretty catastrophic. Hole in the block, that's the biggest thing, but also one of the heads gets damaged pretty badly and potentially damage another rod, or that can potentially snap and damage the other head. But in this case, it's basically an engine replacement. If you guys have ever looked, or if you've never looked, a 7-liter replacement, even a used one with okay mileage, is anywhere between $10,000 to $14,000. So this car is worth about $35,000, and after I buy a motor and have a broken car, I still have to do a lot of work that requires like 15 plus hours of labor. There's no reason for me to keep this. I'll be into it. I can just go buy another running Z06 for that much money if I wanted to spend it. And even though this is like a very, very clean example of one, there's definitely a lot of work that I don't want to do, nor do I have the time, because this will turn into a personal project, but also a project for the shop, which isn't anything extraordinary. It's just replacing a motor. But then again, you know, some of you guys do like watching that, but that's just not something that I want to do. This is not our forte. With that, unfortunately, I'm just going to sell this thing. As cool as it would have been to have another one, even though I'm selling the other one, it would have been sick to have both crushed side by side, you know, and then Justin could have drove one, Jeff could have drove one. It would have been dope, you know. We'd just do the same little float on the highway, just look nice and mean. But that requires quite a few thousands of dollars with wheels and suspension setups and stuff. Would have been cool, but a little too much money, more money than I want to spend with. So when you go to buy something, bring a friend. And Jeff was like, I was gonna drive with you, but you kind of did it last minute. And yeah, I did it kind of last minute. I didn't let him know, otherwise he would have been like, nah, bruh. And so, but it's still a good deal. Originally, when we were picking it up, looking over the car as best as I could, underneath the car looked dry as a bone, because the car maybe wasn't moved in a while or something like that. And I mean, in this immaculate of a condition, you don't really think of those things. When we pulled it on the trailer, there was nothing going on. Looked underneath, since it was up a little bit higher, the car was dry underneath. Now on our way down to the shop, we drove about an hour from up north, basically almost went to Canada. By the time we got to the shop, got out of the truck, looked on the trailer, and literally the whole trailer is covered in oil.
Got him! Got him!
And so that was an indication of there's something more wrong with it. And if there's oil there, most likely something happened to the block and it was sloshing out. And so my trailer was completely covered. So I had to not only take this thing off the trailer, but also spent a little while cleaning up the oil on my trailer. And you're a dickhead for that, asshole. But anyways, he's a bum, and he basically lied literally about everything. But there are people who sometimes maybe wad up their own Corvette and end up keeping the drivetrain. And so I posted it back up on Marketplace and was very transparent about what happened to the car. And I got an offer. And so somebody's actually on their way here today to potentially pick it up. But how cool would it have been to have another one? But in any case, this is more for people who are buying stuff up Marketplace. Be careful. Take a friend who knows stuff about cars. Obviously, I know stuff about cars. I just wasn't very diligent in checking stuff. I just don't know shit about vets, apparently. Well, yeah, I really don't. Apparently. You know, to be completely honest, I don't know a lot about a lot of things, and which is okay, which some of y'all don't know a lot about nothing, you know? my boy and I were talking earlier, he's going fishing, and all of a sudden I surprised one of my friends when I started to get all this fishing lingo coming out, and he's like, dude, you seem to know everything. I'm like, no, I don't know squat, bro. I don't know anything. I just pretend like I do. I know a little about a lot, you know? So I'm not by means no expert. Even though I've owned an S13 since I was 16, I don't know too much about them. I know suspension stuff. I know some engine stuff. You want me to build you an SR? Good luck, bro. Like, go somewhere else. I don't do that. That's why there's people that do this professionally. I don't do that professionally. Professionally, I do alignments and suspension work and brakes and things like that. Very simple stuff. But in any case, I do like creating this kind of content for you guys. This is a little bit different, you know. This is just showing you and some things to avoid, you know. But make sure when you are somewhere, do yourself a favor. Bring a flashlight, bring a mirror. If something doesn't start, just know that you might run into an issue like this. Maybe not on this particular car, but maybe something else. Try to look for signs that would tell you that something more is wrong with the car. With this one, unfortunately, everywhere I could have looked, I didn't see anything. But just like I said, Jeff literally came out here with a flashlight and a mirror, and he goes, let me see, and then literally found the hole in the block. Which, from looking down into it, I mean, you guys can take a look. When it's a completely factory sealed off engine bay, it is really, really hard to get a good look at the block. You really can't. From the passenger side, there's a little bit of room, but from the driver's side, everything's so compact in here with the brake booster, the alternator, power steering pump, that you can't see stuff. So do yourself a favor, bring a friend, bring some tools, take some things apart, bring a charged battery, maybe a good jump box so you can try to potentially start it. Bring some tools. You know, sometimes the solenoids on the starters don't want to activate. Give those a good smack to see if you'll be able to start the rig. And if you can't, just kind of cross your fingers and pray for good luck. And hopefully, if the motor's bad, you're not going to be upside down in your buy. As far as my advice on all of this, you know, I can bore you with all the details. Just make sure to at least bring a few of those things that we talked about. I can go on and on about some of the things you can look out for, you know, cracked tires, this and that, like bent suspension arms and this and that. But I do want to show you something cool. So I referenced it in our last video that this thing, even though it is a low budget sports car from the US, this thing was one of the fastest cars on Nürburgring in this factory condition with the factory leaf spring in the back and the factory 7-liter. So look out, Justin's gonna plug a video for you guys. Watch that, just listen to that thing rip. See you in a second. All right, boys and girls, now that you saw that majesty at hand, let's go in the shop and see what Jeff's working on. So I know he's got a couple of projects that he's got going on today, and this is like same guy that bought his R35 GTR.
Later on, I actually figured out that this car won Texas 2K in the GTR 4 class, I believe it was, from Stacy Barnett.
You guys saw this car drifting around at Evergreen Speedway. He's going to be doing a full exhaust system on this thing. And then he's working on, I don't know, we don't work on this kind of stuff, but I guess Jeff does. Well, enough of me jibber jabbering. We're going to talk to this guy. Yeah, see? It's always something like that with this guy.
All right, now that Nick's done yapping away, let's get to the real work going on. So like I said, I got 2 customer cars in here. One of them's a Subaru rally car. Belongs to one of my buddies over at Steck. If you guys don't know what Steck is, it's a PPF company. They make just the material, they don't install it, so they're not an installer. They sponsor MLZ. I don't really know who else they work with around here because I've never PPF anything. They're local to us. He's a good dude. This car had like a shop locally, already make a header, and then they had made the old exhaust. I had already replaced their exhaust because it was pretty much the opposite of the one that I've made previous this year, but it was like down here. So I've kind of done the opposite, tucked it up and got about as close as I can in most areas. And then even now, so that I've replaced the header with the one that I made, I've modified this to meet up with my new header higher, because the old header was kind of like down here, and it already had smashed my old V-band. You can see it's not round anymore. Messed the clamp up. So I took this as an opportunity to replace this flex joint and the V-band because I couldn't even get a new one installed on it because it won't even go on because it's so bent. You can see right there, like how it's lined up on the bottom, but yeah, it just wasn't gonna go on anyway. So I had already had to cut off the exhaust side. And yeah, this is the new header that I've made. It's got a bunch of flexes in there, that way when he's out hitting stuff and running things over, it at least has an opportunity to move instead of crack like the old one was doing. This had no flex anywhere in the header system, so any impact was putting a lot of stress on any of the weak welds or points where, you know, it was ready to break. So hopefully this one lasts a little bit better. I also moved the O2 sensor so it was facing up and an easier spot to get to. You could potentially change it from the top side instead of having it on the side. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and toss this header on there, get everything buttoned up. Let's go check out the next car that's going to be on the lift after I finish this one. So this is Josh from Out of Love and Ruiner Strobes. They make these cool strobe lights. He had his exhaust catch and come off probably a couple times now. It kind of came with the motor setup that he had. It was really old and it was like a slit fit. So anytime it would hit something because of how low the car is, it kind of just pulled the exhaust off since it wasn't like a V-band or any kind of like 2-bolt flange. So what we're gonna do is start from the downpipe and go all the way back with oval, so he'll get more ground clearance, and we'll actually put some V-bands in there in areas that it won't be able to catch the ground and rip it off. So yeah, this is the next one up on the chopping block. All right, so after I wrap this up, we're gonna go ahead and toss a winch on this trailer for Josh, and then that'll be the end of it. I think the next video will be the FD video, so stay tuned. We got some big stuff going on right before FD and during FD, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe.